Hands That Look Like Yours. Written by Tony Godino. Read by Tony Godino. With cover art by Jonny Watkins and music by Bob Nice. Recorded in the kitchen in April of 2026. For free stories and poems or info on live shows, check Instagram at Tony Godino Died. Not true at time of recording. To purchase physical poetry collections and short stories, including this one, visit tonygodino.bigcartel.com. And thank you for listening. Hands That Look Like Yours. For Clementine Chavez. Jackson Rhoades followed the short and large man from the front desk as he waddled along the asphalt in front of him. His red eyes, tired from a 12-hour drive out of Philly, were fixed squarely on the short and large man from the front desk's bald spot. The thin, brittle hair that surrounded the pink flaky disc on the top of the short and large man from the front desk's head stretched in every direction, like the desperate legs of a trapped spider, pulsating and biting at the hot, wet air between him and Jackson. The two men crossed the parking lot under low and heavy purple clouds. The parking lot separated the west wing from the east wing of the Marietta Motel 6, a cheap dump off I-75 just far enough outside Atlanta to be country and otherwise absent of any life besides the bugs and birds that bite and squawk all goddamn day and night. Soon enough, they arrived at the pink door to Jackson's room, number 138. A room with its door facing the back of the motel. The back of the motel, Jackson observed, was an overgrown green mess, likely full of rabbits and rats waiting with their babies for the animals that hunt them. It's all instincts. It's their nature. But it's a bad, bad mess. Jackson Rhoades stood there behind the Marietta Motel 6, just squinting into the sun, watching it as it dropped behind the trees, past the mess of weeds, when the short and large man from the front desk put an old key in the dented bronze doorknob, turned it, and pushed open the pink door to room number 138. Jackson turned around and, when he did, he saw that just past the bed, on the other side of the dirty old room, there was a mirror hung on the wall. Jackson smiled tight and thanked the short and large man from the front desk. After Jackson shut the door behind the man, he dropped his duffel bag on the stiff bed and walked to the mirror. He looked at himself. He saw the lines that anger gave him stretching from his red eyes and grabbing at the gray twinkling in his sideburns. As the sun came in and out of the room between the crack in the curtains, blowing open and closed and open and closed and open and closed from the air conditioner under the window, Jackson Rhoades saw the gray better than he ever did before. He saw how far it's crawled up his head. He palmed up his bangs and checked his hairline. He found no good news. He looked at his teeth, still yellow, and in places brown, from the cigarettes he hasn't so much as touched in damn near 15 years. He looked into the black triangles where his gums once were. He noticed nose hairs, ear hairs, lines and cracks and pimples and warts, and he sat at the edge of the greasy, orange comforter on his stiff bed, laid back, closed his eyes, and he cried. He opened them, his eyes, and said goodbye to the sun and the low and heavy purple clouds as he walked across the parking lot to the gas station on the corner. He returned to his room and ate the sandwich he'd bought there and the 2 hard-boiled eggs that sat in the thin plastic sack and stewing in some cloudy white juice, I guess you could call it. He took a plastic cup from next to the ice bucket by the sink outside the bathroom there in his room, unwrapped it from its plastic bag, filled it up in the sink, and drank it down. He showered. He put on a new pair of white and ugly underwear. Then he laid back on a stack of thin pillows and he turned on the TV and he cried. Why? He thought, as the news anchors pretended to smile and the actors pretended they lived on the same fucking planet as him, that they shared anything at all with the people they played on TV. Why is it all gone? Why is the world only behind him? He thought of the empty room up north and of the 15 years he spent in it, only thinking. He thought of all people, how they waste their youth under the illusion that freedom is age, that freedom is their own apartment, a job, a car, only to arrive at adulthood to find that instead they are given a landlord, a boss, and a lien. And when they lose themselves and everything else and respond with the courage to fight tooth and goddamn nail, to find the most deeply rooted and ruthless truths inside themselves, vowing to pull these evil weeds, duty-bound to examine and eradicate the worst their mind has to offer, why are they then given a world that they finally understand for exactly 1 moment less than the time it takes to enjoy it? Why is their reward for winning their war only a brand new war, unrecognizable from the one they just won, now fought on a new battlefield, rendered uninhabitable from the changes made by a generation who can't wait to get rid of them? Why are they cursed to move only forward through this new world and do so alone, always so alone? Why can Jackson Rose, a decent, average man, not live a happy life? Why must he be defined solely by some public glimpse into a moment in his past that no one else could possibly understand? Did he not pay his debt? Did he not give his youth to that empty room up north? Where is the young man that once loved so freely, that once kissed so passionately the lips of the prettiest girl there in any goddamn bar? Where is the young man who ran around the world with adventure in his heart, patience and good cheer settled in his chest? Why, Jackson thought, must I transform into this 39-year-old man while he is permitted to be eternally 23, dancing and singing and loving and fucking and drinking and snorting and breathing all night and every night in my mind? If I must age and turn to nothing, then why mustn't he? Why must I suffer this world while he lives in endless love? Why must I walk through this door to see only an even older man than the one I was when I last looked? Why must I walk through only old doors? Why do they all lead behind me? And then Jackson Rhodes leapt to his feet, stood up on the bed in his white and ugly underwear, and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Why only me? Why isn't he made to walk through this old door to this old room?" And he fell on his back, empty and exasperated, and he closed his eyes tight and he cried. And he wished that the young man would walk through that door so he could grab him by the ears and tell him everything, tell him how to be good, stop him before he ruins his life, before he ruins other, better lives. He stopped and he thought of the girl, of the baby. And then the door opened. And so too did Jackson's dull, green eyes, glaring from the greasy bed. And through the old pink door, not 6 feet from where he laid, entered Jackie Rhodes, the young and ever-ready man of 23, with his unearned and lean muscle, his easy, all-black fashion, his thick, dark, curly hair, and with adventure shining in his bright green eyes. He said, "Hey there, old man. Remember me?" Jackie walked past Jackson in his underwear, in his bed, stepped up to the mirror and began admiring himself. He stroked his chin, he ran his fingers through his hair, flattening and pulling away from the clean, thick part in the hair on the left side of his head, smiling all the while. "Listen to me, kid," Jackson said after he jumped up and grabbed Jackie by the arm. "Just what in the fuck do you think you're doing here?" Jackie pushed himself loose, ran his palms down the front of his shirt, smoothing the wrinkles, and said, "Watch it, Pop." Jackson stood there, in front of the orange bed, and stared at Jackie. Jackie smiled at him. "How did you?" Jackson said. "What the You're me, right? Just older, yeah?" "No," Jackson said, "I'm me. Look, I was at a party in South Philly, okay? I passed out drunk in Janie's bed. I woke up in the woods. I don't know how. I walked to the road and I found a gas station. I saw a newspaper, and yeah, I lost my shit when I saw the date in town, but I found my shit when repeating what the fuck didn't do anything but get me kicked out of the gas station. So I walked down the road, I saw your room, door 138, and something told me to look inside the window. I saw you. I sat on the curb. I smoked half a pack of cigarettes. I drank the beers I stole from the gas station, and I accepted that I either time traveled, died, or I'm dreaming. Okay? Can you just chill the fuck out? Can we just move on with this?" "Janie?" Jackson said, flashing his eyes wide at Jackie. Then he shrunk and said, "Oh, Janie." "So she's still. Why were you crying?" Jackson gestured at the bed and then around the room. Well. He shook his head. "I wasn't crying." "You know what? That's good. I don't actually want to know," Jackie said as he turned and opened the door. "Wait just a minute, kid. Now where the hell are you going?" "I'm going out." He pointed at the red numbers on the brown alarm clock. "It's only 9 p.m. Jesus, man, were you going to sleep?" "Well, I was winding down." Jackie looked at Jackson, scanned him from top to bottom. "Fuck. You are sad, man." Jackson stepped forward. "You arrogant little fuck," and grabbed Jackie. But Jackie pushed him off and Jackson fell back and landed on the bed, his feet flying into the air, almost tumbling over the other end. And when he steadied himself, he heard the door slam shut. Jackie was gone. And so were Jackson's cell phone and wallet. Jackson laid back, his head on the stack of thin pillows, and he closed his eyes. And though he intended to lay there in his greasy defeat, he suddenly found himself in the parking lot, then in the gas station, then outside the gas station drinking a Budweiser beer, then ordering, stepping into, and then out of a car. "Great," Jackie said as he stood outside Tim Riley's bar in Marietta, Georgia. "You're in here with me, aren't you?" What the fuck?" Jackson opened his eyes and sat up in the greasy orange bed and looked around the empty old room and watched the dull, blue night through the crack in the curtains as they blew open and closed, open and closed, and open and closed, and sweating and whimpering, he said, "What the fuck?" And he kept saying it until his heartbeat slowed and his palms dried up some, and he laid back, and with the mischievous whisper of curiosity breathing its request on his wrinkled neck, he closed his eyes, and he found himself inside Tim Riley's bar in Marietta, Georgia, engaged in conversation over 2 Budweiser beers with the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia. "Who the fuck is she?" Jackson asked. "Can you excuse me? I gotta go to the bathroom," Jackie said to the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia with a smile before he stood up and walked across the bar, through the 2 pool tables, swerving vertical cue sticks, soaring darts, and raucous old friends. Jackie opened the door and stepped up to the urinal. Jackson felt it all. Every confident step, every mindless thought. He felt the old wooden door, the rigid metal zipper. Then, Jackie looked down and said, "So what? I'm stuck in here with you now?" I don't know." "Shit," Jackie whispered. "Wait, why weren't you in my head before, in the room?" Jackson considered for a moment, feeling Jackie's warm, wet release, smelling the yellow of a dehydrated 23-year-old child who lives off 25-cent coffee cakes and $3 cheese hoagies from the corner store on 5th and Mifflin. Perhaps it's... He opened his eyes and found his fat, old body laying in white and ugly underwear on a greasy mattress. He looked to his left and saw through the crack in the curtains blowing open and closed and opened and closed and opened and closed from the air conditioner under the window. He looked to his right and saw the entirety of his pathetic fucking life spilling out of a $3 thrift store suitcase. Jackson stood off the bed, laid on the floor, and closed his eyes to find nothing but tears and the cold, horrible lonesomeness of sobriety. Then he laid back on the bed, and again he closed his eyes. "I've got it," Jackson said, as the sad mess of loss, failure, and disaster thrashing in his chest faded instead into Jackie's lust, vanity, and complete lack of self-candor. "It only works when I lay on the bed and close my eyes," he said. "Buddy, you're welcome to come with me, but pick a side. Either hide in there like a sad old bitch all night, or come out and have some goddamn fun," Jackie said as he lost himself in fantasies of the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia. "A girl? How did you... already? You just got there." Suddenly a voice came from across the smelly and well-lit room. "You talking to me, son?" The steel stall door with chipped blue paint opened and a large, bearded man wearing a real tree camo t-shirt and matching hat stepped forward and said, "You're at the wrong bar, boy. Fags drink in the city." Jackson felt anger rush his body. He saw their father standing there instead of the large, bearded man wearing a real tree camo t-shirt and matching hat. He felt Jackie's fists tighten. He felt Jackie's mouth open. He felt Jackie's mind searching for the worst words to use on this hick fuck, this ignorant, inbred hillbilly piece of shit. He tried to loosen Jackie's hands, but he couldn't. He tried to close Jackie's mouth, but it wasn't his to close. He was only an observer. And just as soon as Jackie was about to say the words sitting on his lips, Jackson screamed, "Don't!" And Jackson's objection woke Jackie up enough for the large, bearded man wearing a real tree camo t-shirt and matching hat to leave the bathroom. "I felt that, Jackie. I felt your hate for him." "Hate? How did I end up so fucking dramatic?" "Look, Jackie, that man's not our father. That man can't hurt you. You don't have to hurt him." "What the hell are you talking about? And when do I become a fucking yoga teacher?" "It's called therapy, kid. It's the best thing that ever happened to you. Do us both a favor and start sooner." "I ain't ever going to therapy. Sit around and cry to some overpaid egghead? Fuck that shit." "Oh, you will, and you will like it." "Whatever, man," Jackie said. And trailing off under his breath, he added, "Sad old bitch." Jackie washed his hands and admired his hair in the mirror, scanning for zits between the graffiti scratched into the glass. How do you even know we are the same person? What if it's parallel dimensions? What if we're both dead? That doesn't change the truth. It makes the truth irrelevant. The truth is beyond excuse, explanation, or anything adjacent. It is not up for debate. The fuck does that mean? God, I hate when you do that. Do what? Speak before you think. "Whatever, old man," Jackie said as he hurried through the soap and water and dried his hands on his pants. "I'm going to get laid." And just as soon as he reached for the bathroom door, it opened on its own, and a man with a stylized limp and a Dutchmaster cigar tucked under his Falcon's hat walked through muttering, "Coke, weed, pills, H. Coke, weed, pills, H." Quiet and quick while scanning the bathroom. "Yo," Jackie said to the man with the stylized limp and a Dutchmaster cigar tucked under his Falcon's hat. "You got any blow?" "Jackie, don't do that," Jackson said, but Jackie ignored him, opened Jackson's wallet, gave the man with a stylized limp and a Dutchmaster cigar tucked under his Falcon hat $60, nodded his thanks, and left the bathroom. "Jackie, please don't do that." "The fuck do you care? I've seen where this goes," Jackson said as he felt Jackie tuck the 1-inch by 1-inch Ziploc bag into the bottom of Jackson's wallet, feeling Jackie's warm fingers on the damp leather. "Regardless of how this all works, I've already lived the life you're living. You're going down a dark path. This ends very badly for you. For us." "Yeah, sure, but what if it's time travel?" Jackie said as he ordered 2 more Budweiser beers. Jackson felt the blood rush to Jackie's stupid and overused dick as he looked back and smiled at the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia, sitting there with her elbows on the sticky steel square table, smoking, running the tip of her finger around the rim of her rocks glass. "Then you can't tell me what's going to happen, right? But it doesn't matter. I can still help you. I know you, Jackie. Please believe me. I've spent more time thinking about you than probably anything else in my entire life. Jackson touched the cold brown glass sweating in Jackie's hand as they walked back to the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia. He smelled the old familiar burn of indoor cigarettes floating up Jackie's nose. He felt the 1-inch by 1-inch Ziploc bag in the bottom of his wallet, not with Jackie's fingers, but with his mind. He felt the paranoia of hypothetical arrest from the potential presence of police, the thrill of a night without rules, without bars, without chips and cages, without Bill W. and Dr. Bob, without sponsors and sobriety. Jackie drank half his Budweiser beer on the 30-second walk back to his stool, and Jackson knew he should open his eyes, get off the bed, let Jackie have his fun, try to talk to him when he gets back to the Marietta Motel 6. He knew that. There was no question about it. That's what Jackson should do. Hi, the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia said as she squished her cigarette into the green glass ashtray on the sticky steel square table, kissed her Budweiser beer, and turned it upside down over her mouth. Taking a third of it in, she swallowed and smiled and said, "Make any friends in there?" Jackie laughed. "I make friends everywhere I go." "Well, I saw you come out of the bathroom right before that guy from the city. I seen him thrown out of enough bars in town to know what he does in there." "So you only heard about him? Never bought anything from him?" "Never bought, no, but never had to." "So you've tried it?" "Yeah," she laughed, leaning forward into the sticky steel square table. "I've tried it," she said. "Well, if you play your cards right." The prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia cut in and said, "I'm going to pay my tab. Then we're going to my car." She grabbed her purse but stopped getting up when Jackie said, "No." Jackie laughed when Jackson said, "No?" And Jackson thanked him when she said, "We're not?" "No," Jackie said. "We are definitely going to your car, but I already paid your tab." She pursed her lips and turned her chin. "Thank you, Jackie." "My pleasure." "God damn it, Jackie," Jackson said. "I'm going to use the bathroom before we leave. I'll meet you out front." She stood up from the sticky steel square table, and Jackson felt every slow step Jackie took through the neon smoke, felt the beer swimming in Jackie's gut, the alcohol. God, it's been so long. Felt him push the steel knob on the chipped blue door and open it to the screaming heat and deep beeps of passing Mack trucks barreling down the asphalt just past the front parking lot to Tim Riley's bar in Marietta, Georgia. "You're awful quiet, old man." "Huh? Oh, I think," Jackson said, nearly smiling. "I think I'm drunk." "Oh yeah," Jackie said. "I ain't even buzzed yet, you putz." "Oh no, no. Oh, ease up, old man. You're having fun." No, you don't understand. I can't drink." "Aw, shit. If you're gonna barf, don't do it in here, man. I don't need to know how that works." "Would you shut the fuck up, Jackie?" Jackie rolled his eyes and lit a cigarette. "Put that out. Please stop smoking, Jackie. You don't understand. You don't understand how bad it gets. I'm trying to help you," Jackie said, echoing the low croak in Jackson's throat. "I heard you the first time, old man." "No, Jackie, that's not what I'm saying right now. Just please trust me. Please come back to the hotel room. I'll explain everything. You're starting to sound like my dad." Jackie stopped, remembered his father's fists landing on them both. He remembered them landing on his mother. He remembered all the crying. "I'm not him, Jackie," he said through the rasp, through the vast mass of sadness stuck in his throat. "Look, you're not drinking. I am. You're not smoking. I am. You're just," he threw his hands up, "along for the ride. But I can feel it." "Well, when you watch TV or read a book, you feel it, right? That's different." "Just come on," Jackie said, calling up memories of his wildest nights back in 2010 and sending them to Jackson back at the Marietta Motel 6. "This is fun. When was the last time you just had fun?" As Jackson tried, genuinely, to find an answer for Jackie's question, the door opened behind them, and they turned around to see the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia standing there staring back at them. Their heartbeat pumped hot blood through to their fingertips, their toes, their hairline, and always, but double here and now, to their growing, needy cocks. She pulled her keys from her purse and pressed the button. They spun around when a gray car in the back of the side lot beeped and flashed its headlights. She walked to the gray car in the back of the side lot and they followed her. They opened the door to the passenger seat. They sat down. They kissed her. They got hard. They felt her hands stroking them over their jeans. They watched the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia as she pulled away from their lips, giggling, her nipples reaching through her tight, pale orange t-shirt. They took the bag from their wallet, took her keys from her hand, and dipped it into the bag. They put the key under the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia's nose. They watched as she, keeping her eyes on them, pressed one nostril shut and took the white dust from the key with the other. They took a deep, hard breath, then dipped it in again. They put the key up to their nostril. They followed it as it passed through their nose, into their throat, and into their mind. They did it again, then again. She took it from them as their head fell back into the headrest. Then the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia unbuckled her pants, took their hard cock out, dropped her head into their lap, and sucked them both right there in the gray car in the back of the side lot of Tim Riley's bar in Marietta, Georgia. Just about 3 or 4 miles from that Marietta Motel 6. They danced through it all, Jackson and Jackie, together. They drank the beers the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia had in the back seat of her gray car, and they drove to a party in Atlanta. She played music loud and they sang along, screaming every word out the open window and onto the asphalt and trees, and eventually onto the city streets. They kissed her at every red light. She stroked them over their pants as she drove. They played with her clit over her shorts as she drove. They talked, and when they arrived at a house party at the 1-story pink shotgun house in West Midtown, they talked the whole way through the crowded lawn, and the whole way into the living room, and into the kitchen, to anyone who would listen. Occasionally, they'd exchange the 1-inch by 1-inch Ziploc bag with the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia, and duck into a bathroom to take from it. Jackson floated alongside Jackie, laying on the greasy orange bed in his white and ugly underwear still covered in the cum that the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia sucked out of them both. For hours, he watched as they yelled at people they just met, arguing about things that they all agreed on, albums and movies mostly. They made bold, baseless claims on social issues they hardly understood and barely even cared about. They spoke in absolutes. They drank until the weight of time and consequence disappeared from its perch upon their shoulders and rested somewhere unseen by all involved. They drank until tomorrow simply ceased to exist. They were, for one more night, beyond consequence, beyond time. And then, under a sagging hickory tree surrounded by strangers in the middle of the backyard, in the middle of an argument about Green Day in which Jackie was defending their perfect streak, saying exactly how and why every album was better than the one before it, up until, of course, 21st Century Breakdown, which Jackie argued is a fantastic compliment piece to American Idiot, but is certainly not better. He then explained to his rival dialogist why he was wrong in saying that Green Day's last good record was Nimrod. And despite the rival dialogist's repeated attempts to explain to Jackie that, yeah, well, while everything they released up to around 2009 was, sure, okay, it was pretty good, but since then it's been... The rival dialogist paused and was about to add difficult to get behind to say the very least, and cite track 2 off of Dose, which is entitled Fuck Time. But before he could, the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia took them by Jackie's hand, leaving their rival dialogist mid-sentence, confused and frustrated. She pulled them both, Jackie and Jackson, behind a sturdy old shed just left and back some from the sagging hickory tree in the backyard, full of strangers behind the 1-story pink shotgun house in West Midtown, which is about 15 miles from Tim Riley's bar in Marietta, Georgia, which is about 3 or 4 miles from the Marietta Motel 6. There, they found a handsome young man with soft eyes that somehow contained both sex and sadness. And before they could even think about why the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia dragged them behind the sturdy old shed, she'd already started kissing them. Then, she reached out, her lips still attached to Jackie and Jackson's, and grabbed the handsome young man with soft eyes that somehow contained both sex and sadness by the belt and pulled them in to kiss with them. They kissed. All four of them. Jackson, Jackie, the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia, and the handsome young man with soft eyes that somehow contained both sex and sadness. For what seemed like both an instant and an entire year. Jackson and Jackie fell inside each other and floated there. It was so warm and good that they hardly noticed when she pulled away and left them to kiss the handsome young man with soft eyes that somehow contained both sex and sadness, or when she dropped to her knees and started sucking the handsome young man with soft eyes that somehow contained both sex and sadness right there behind the sturdy old shed. They came to when, with his cock in her mouth, she started undoing Jackson and Jackie's belt without even looking, and before long, they both had their dicks out too, and she was blowing all three of them. Nobody came this time, though, because the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia stopped and said, "Jackie, baby, let's go back to my place and finish that bag. Let's have some fun." Jackie looked at the handsome young man with soft eyes that somehow contained both sex and sadness and asked, non-verbally, if he was into it. When Jackie received a positive nod, he turned next to Jackson, and inside his mind he called up thoughts that felt like questions, and when Jackson just laid there floating, silent and complacent, perhaps even elated, aching neck deep in the infinite hunger and ceaseless greed of the familiar and defiant oceans of desire, Jackie took his silence as consent, and perhaps he can be forgiven, as he, of course, did not know of any reason why Jackson would protest a good time. I mean, how much could he have changed, right? Well, sure, but Jackie is smart. And if you asked him in a still moment, a moment unlike this one in which Jackie was moving so fast that he could hardly even breathe, well, he would tell you then that even though the transfer of sensation only went one way, Jackie could feel Jackson's reasons to leave. Reasons to wake up sober before anything more happened. But Jackson was too numb and drunk and enchanted to speak or think, and Jackie was too stupid to ask the necessary amount of times to be sure, to be completely and entirely sure that everybody wanted to come along. And so Jackie took Jackson to the temporarily empty house of the parents of the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia, and he fucked all three of them, and all three of them fucked him, and they collapsed covered in each other's sweat and cum on the kitchen floor of the temporarily empty house of the parents of the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia, about 6 blocks from the sturdy old shed just left and back some from the sagging hickory tree in the backyard full of strangers behind the one-story pink shotgun house in West Midtown, which is about 15 miles from Tim Riley's bar in Marietta, Georgia, which is about 3 or 4 miles from the Marietta Motel 6. And if you can believe it, Jackson actually thanked him for the opportunity to feel it all, to be young again, to taste adventure and cum and sweat and recklessness. He thanked him, and he opened his eyes, and he got up from the orange bed, smiled at the crack in the curtains, toweled off and laid on the floor in his white underwear. He smiled. His mind was empty. No worries, no memories, no mother, no father, no son. Just easy, hard, long, peaceful sleep. For the first time in over 15 years, just sleep. Oh God. Oh God, no. Oh God, no, Jackson repeated as he paced on the crumbs on the carpet in front of the greasy orange bed in room number 138 in the Marietta Motel 6. What have I done? What have I done? Jackson walked out the pink door and stepped onto the asphalt. his pale skin and blue veins burning in the high sun. He walked to the lobby to find the short and large man from the front desk sweating and squashing bugs. He took a coffee and a tasty cake from the sundry shop and smiled as best he could at the short and large man from the front desk and said, "Put it on my room, yeah?" Then Jackson paced the sidewalk outside rooms number 136 to 140, chewing on his fingernails and muttering to himself things like, "I didn't do it, he did it, and he's always doing it in my mind anyway, so it's no different. I wasn't drunk. Anyhow, I felt it, but, well, it's like watching a TV show or reading a book, and it's not like I said no. I tried a little, but it's my fault. I should have been more firm, more direct. I should have opened my eyes and just left." It went on like that for about the amount of time it takes to smoke maybe 6 or 7 imaginary cigarettes. After that, Jackson said to himself, "I'm gonna find that little motherfucker, and I'm gonna fucking kill him," and opened the pink door to room number 138 and laid down on his bed and he closed his eyes. But nothing happened. The little bastard must be sleeping. So he went outside and he paced, and after a while he came back inside and he looked over at the red numbers on the brown alarm clock and read 10 a.m. Then he laid back into the stack of thin pillows and closed his eyes. And when he opened them, he saw a woman. A beautiful woman with a warm, bashful smile. Jackie's gaze was fixed squarely on the beautiful woman with the warm, bashful smile. Jackson saw half-empty coffee mugs and half-empty French toast plates. He heard the tumult of dozens of hungover mid-morning conversations. He smelled eggs and hot sauce and butter. He looked into Jackie's peripherals and found a busy diner. But that's it because Jackie wasn't moving. Jackson tried to find the name of the diner on a menu or on the glass windows in the front through which the sun was seemingly shining straight into the bright brown eyes of the beautiful woman with the warm, bashful smile. But Jackie just stared forward while the beautiful woman with the warm, bashful smile cut and chewed her French toast. The beautiful woman with the warm, bashful smile began speaking again and said, "Anyway, yeah, so I took some time off. Things got hard for a few years. But now I'm back at Georgia Tech. But how about you? You from here?" "Who the fuck is this?" Jackson said. "What about the pretty girl and the handsome young man? Where did they go?" "I'm sorry," Jackie said, "but I need to smoke. Will you excuse me?" "This is Georgia, Jackie. You can smoke in here." Jackie waved her words away with a smile. "I could use some fresh air." As soon as Jackie peeled himself off the cheap, light green contour booth, Jackson felt a deep, angry pounding in his head. And with every step toward the front door, Jackson grew more enchanted by the coming consolation of a lit cigarette. So much so that he forgot to check the glass window for the diner's name so he could find that little motherfucker and fucking kill him. Jackie stepped out into the morning heat, and Jackson began to sweat through his white and ugly underwear and onto the greasy orange bed. Jackie lit a cigarette, and the smoke and the butane crawled up Jackson's nose and tickled his frontal lobe. "You gonna tell me where the fuck you're at, kid? What are you so angry about? Didn't you have fun last night?" "That's not how I have fun, Jackie. Not any goddamn more." "Relax, old man." "Who is that woman?" Jackson asked. And just as he did, he felt Jackie damn near fall over when he glanced back, and the beautiful woman with the warm, bashful smile flashed her eyes at them both through the glass window. "What woman?" he said, stepping to the right some so she couldn't see him talking to himself. "Don't toy with me, you little son of a bitch," Jackson said. "The beautiful woman with the warm, bashful smile." "She is something, isn't she?" Jackie said as he smoked his cigarette and nodded and smiled at the family that walked by, side-eyeing him and Jackson. "Who is she, Jackie?" Jackson raised an imaginary cigarette to his lips, and Jackie breathed in deep the hot air and hot smoke. With each pull, both shoulders dropped some. "Who is she, Jackie?" Jackson said, a little cooler this time. "That's Kat. Kat Donnelly." "Okay, where did you meet Kat Donnelly?" "Well, I woke up and I asked Sarah about a taxi." "Who the hell is Sarah?" "The pretty girl from the bar." "Oh, yeah. So anyway, she looked at me funny about the taxi. Rich girls, am I right? She told me to use something called Uber. It's like a private car service they got down here. Picture that. Old Jackie getting drove around like some kind of hotshot. I had to download it onto your phone. I hope that's okay. What? Yes, that's fine, Jackie. Okay, cool. Anyway, I was on my way back to the motel, but the driver was something else, man. Right, of course. The driver was beautiful, and you charmed her into getting breakfast with you. No, great guy though. He goes, get this, he goes, boy, you look hungover as shit right when I get in the back seat. And then he gave me an extra Red Bull he had. And we were talking a while and he told me I'll never forget it. He looked at me right from the driver's seat and he said, as Jackie spoke, Jackson could see his memory. He could see him stepping out of the horrible morning heat outside the temporarily empty house of the parents of the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia and stepped into the clean relief of air conditioning in the back seat of a black car. He could see the pair of happy brown eyes in the rearview mirror looking back at Jackie. Jackson shook his head as he went on. He said, he goes, I learned this the hard way, pal, and I tell anybody who will listen so they don't have to. If you can't fix it, don't worry about it because you can't fix it. And if you can't fix it, then don't worry about it because you can fix it. Are you fucking kidding me, Jackie? What? That's good advice. Jackie, I lived your entire life and you won't take any of my advice. This fucking guy gives you a Red Bull and suddenly you're Socrates? You mean Plato. What? Nothing. Sorry. I thought you meant like I was a student, so then I'd be Plato and the driver would be Socrates, not me. I meant because you're being, philosophical. No. Yeah, Jackie said. Okay, yeah, I get it. I mean, I just meant because, Jackie, God damn it, I know what you meant. Jeez. Jackie's shoulders bent forward and his gut turned some. I'm sorry, he said, a little smaller than he was before Jackson yelled at him. Jackson took a short breath and thought before he said, look, it's fine. Anyway, then where did you meet her? Who? Kat? Oh, I stopped by the Piggly Wiggly by the motel to get some Advil and she was walking out. That's it? Yeah, just asked her out. Jesus. Jackson almost laughed. Listen, Plato, don't take Advil when you've been drinking. I know you think it's a cheat code because you don't get hangovers, but it can give you an ulcer. No shit? Jackie dropped his cigarette on the sidewalk out front between two black spots of 10-year-old gum and dug his shoe in to make sure the cigarette was dead. And then he went back inside and sat down across from Kat Donnelly. And when he did, by God, Jackson just about melted into the greasy orange bed underneath him. He was too damn angry when he showed up, angry at Jackie, that idiot kid who wouldn't or couldn't listen, and so he didn't see it then, but those green eyes were only a shade or two off from Janie's. And this woman was strong. She had passion and freedom in those green eyes, just like Janie did. But Jackson saw Kat's resolve. He saw Kat's dignity. He saw something wiser than her years should allow, and he knew, good and goddamn well, that wisdom, in this sense, only and always comes from consequence, and dignity, in this sense, only and always comes from recovery. Oh, Janie, Jackson thought as he shrunk. And just as he was about to open his eyes and lay down on the floor of the room back at the Marietta Motel 6 and spend a long while crying, he was overcome with something, and it washed away the pain of Janie's face in Jackson's mind. I guess it was love, but it wasn't Jackson's love. It was Jackie's. And Jackson could feel it. Boy, could he feel it, because it was swimming in him and on him, above him, under him, and even through him. It was warm, but terribly scary. It held him, both by his throat and with its arms. It came easy, and it raised complicated, clear, and unanswerable questions. It swam through them both, splashing like a fish in a shallow punch bowl. Jackie apologized for taking too long and asked Kat questions about her life. And they smiled at each other, and Jackson, sure, he was angry at Jackie for bringing him back to his past and making him relive the fast fun that took his life, that took Janie, that took everything. But he softened some as he saw Jackie and Kat. How couldn't he? Watching them and remembering what it felt like to be so young, so unacquainted with yourself. And when Kat got up to use the bathroom, Jackson asked Jackie if he wanted him to leave, and Jackie said, "No, actually, I was wondering why you went quiet. I could have used you in there." Used me? I was dying, man, stumbling over my sentences. I think I blew it. Doubt she even comes back. Jackson smiled. You did great, kid. You're doing great. Kat came back and sat down, and Jackson saw Janie, and it hurt. It hurt bad to remember her. But he watched, absolved by something Jackson saw immediately and with absolute clarity, something that Jackie had noticed but had no name for, something Jackie would resolutely refuse if accused of anything even remotely close to the word that they both hold but fear and want but worry they don't deserve. And so Jackson didn't mention the word, but he knew. There was no doubt. Between Jackie and Kat, there was love, real and big. So he stayed silent and he watched. Occasionally, he, in a way, patted Jackie on the back and said, "You're doing great, kid." He watched proudly and he held Jackie close. And when Kat dropped him off at the Marietta Motel 6, Jackson opened his eyes, jumped off the bed, and opened the pink door to find Jackie reaching for the dented bronze doorknob. He grabbed Jackie at the ears, pulled him in close, and he hugged him. Jackie fought it, but not for long. Not for long at all. He held Jackie close. And when Jackie cried, it was because it was the first time in his entire life that a grown man ever said to him, "You're a good boy, and I love you, Jackie." It had been a few months now living in that southern town. And while it was meant for passing through on the way to God only knows where, it became a place for two young people to test their love. They were so in love. They were so in love, in fact, that time and destination on some days, like the days when Jackie and Kat thought of their lives forever changed by their chance encounter outside the Piggly Wiggly 3 blocks from the Marietta Motel 6, had new meaning. Then there were other days. Days when Jackie and Kat laid around just looking at each other real close. And on those days, time and destination meant nothing at all. Most nights Jackie stayed at Kat's, but some nights Jackie and Jackson shared the greasy orange bed, and Jackie's toenails would scratch Jackson in the middle of the night. But he forgave him, found patience, and asked him nicely to clip them. Other times, Jackie's snoring would keep Jackson awake, but he forgave him, found gratitude, and bought a pair of earplugs. And they stayed there at that Marietta Motel 6, and Jackson and Jackie both got jobs around town. Jackson bartended at Tim Riley's bar, just about 3 or 4 miles from the Marietta Motel 6. And Jackie bagged groceries at the Piggly Wiggly, 3 blocks from the Marietta Motel 6. And Jackie told Kat that Jackson was his dad, and they were waiting for their house to get built in a suburb on the other side of the city. And that was that for Jackson, Jackie, and Kat. But this ain't the end, so that isn't quite that. In fact, it gets a lot more complicated than that. One night, Jackson came back to the Marietta Motel 6 after a couple cups of decaf he had with a somewhat pleasant but mostly dull lady he'd met at a meeting in the basement of the First Unitarian Church across town. He put his old key in the dented bronze doorknob, and he turned it, and he pushed the pink door open to find the room empty. He expected it. Jackie and Kat were always together. And he missed Jackie, Kat too in a way. He'd grown fond of her. She was a good woman, he thought, and good for Jackie too. She'd keep him out of trouble. Jackson knew that Kat had come back from something. He didn't know what, but he knew it was bad. And so knowing what he knew about Jackie, and considering Jackie's age, and the fact that he, at least as far as Jackson could tell, seemed to have not yet made that great, big, and terrible mistake that took their lives, that took other, better lives. He figured that whatever Kat came back from might good and goddamn well be what saves Jackie from having to go there and see it for himself. And so Jackson was grateful, lonely, but grateful. And in that moment, he touched an idea. Perhaps, he thought, if Jackie could have it even a little better than Jackson did, Maybe he didn't need his life back. Bartending at Tim Riley's bar in Marietta, Georgia kept Jackson busy. Kept him meeting new folks from all over the world passing through down I-75. He loved the work, even when it was mopping up some drunk kid's puke or defending the trash from local raccoons. Because most times, it was just good, honest conversation. Because folks passing through have no reason to lie, and all Jackson wanted was a little bit of truth. Well, that's not true. Jackson also wanted someone to spend his time with. It was hard sometimes, watching Jackie and Kat in love. And he'd stop spending time inside Jackie. He told Jackie he'd always be there for him if he needed him, but he wanted Jackie to do it without him, to trust himself. He promised himself that he'd always be Jackie's rock, but knew it was important for him to learn to stand on his own, to be his own man. And it was hard sometimes, Jackson thought once more as cigarettes and beer bottles and needles and spoons danced in his mind, fixed with little faces and little eyes set on him, set to drive him nuts. Because it was nights like these, after another failed date, where he felt so fat and so alone, so hopeless. And the mirror on the wall was there to remind him just how fat and old and alone he was. How hopeless. He kept on trying, and he kept on dating any local lady or man that happened by and gave him the right kind of eye. He'd do it right, make it nice, take them out and be a gentleman, but it never worked out. Once he dated a lady named Lynn for a few weeks. She was Jackie's boss at the Piggly Wiggly. She looked past his looks and living in a motel, and she saw him for who he was, but then she found out a bit about his past. He told her one night. And she was sorry, and she said she tried, but she couldn't live around it. And so nights like that, Jackson got real low, and he knew there was only one way he could get any love from this world. And so he laid down in his bed, and he closed his eyes, and he found Kat on top of him in her white and glowing bedroom, all hot as hell with the window open and the long white curtains blowing in the hot wind, and her firm and perfect breasts bouncing in his hands. And she was screaming his name. She was screaming, "Fuck me, Jackie. Fuck, I love it when you fuck me, Jackie." And when Jackie noticed Jackson had showed up, he said, "Hey there, old man." And Kat looked down panting and breathed out, "What?" Jackie said, "Nothing, honey. Now don't you dare stop." And then he called up thoughts that felt like salutations. He welcomed Jackson in and let him watch. And he grabbed Kat by the hips, picked her up and spun her around and down onto the bed in her white and glowing bedroom. He got over her, and slowly he stopped her going wild like she sometimes liked to by just looking in her eyes. And he made love to her in her white and glowing bedroom, and she looked into his eyes, and each time he took it out and put it back in, he did it slower and slower, and Jackson, perfectly in sync with Jackie, did the same with his hand on the greasy orange bed. Slower and slower, until she was staring at them both and smiling, and she kissed them, and they kissed her, and Jackie took it out and put it in slowly, and Jackie and Kat kissed so much, and there was so much love, and Jackson laid there alone with only the moonlight that came in and out of the room between the crack in the curtains, blowing open and closed and opened and closed and opened and closed from the air conditioner below the window in his room at the Marietta Motel 6, and Jackie took it out and put it in, and when he did it a little faster and a little faster each time, and each time he did it in the white and glowing bedroom with Kat, Jackson did it with his hand in the Marietta Motel 6. And when she said, "Oh," she said it a little louder and a little louder until she was screaming it, and she kept screaming it until all three of them came all at once, and Jackie fell down onto Kat and slid down some onto her chest, and he closed his eyes and listened to her heartbeat as it slowed and fell in time with his own. And soon after that, Jackie fell asleep. And as Jackson knew it would, Jackie falling asleep kicked Jackson out and back into the Marietta Motel 6 bedroom and onto the greasy orange bed all by himself. So Jackson opened his eyes and he toweled himself off. He sat up in bed and he took a cigarette from a pack on the nightstand and he lit it, and he tried very hard not to cry as he imagined how Jackie fell asleep on Kat's shoulder and how she held him there until she fell asleep too. And after a while, Jackson willed his mind to empty out. He reminded himself that the sadness and hopelessness are just stories, convincing stories, but still just stories. And he slept, but barely. Jackie didn't want to talk about it, about why he'd been around so much lately. He just wanted to spend a few nights at the Marietta Motel 6, but he'd had enough of sleeping with Jackson and sharing his greasy orange bed, so he got his own greasy orange bed in the West Wing with the door facing I-75 on the other side of the front desk. Room number 27. And Jackie just refused to tell Jackson what was wrong, so Jackson tried laying down and closing his eyes and saying things like, "Hey Plato, where you been?" And, "You know you can always talk to me, pal." And, "I know you, Jackie, better than you know you." And, "I'm not going anywhere till you tell me what this quiet shit's about." And, "This is slipping, Jackie, this is when you need to talk to me." Things like that. But it didn't make a difference. Jackie would just cover his eyes and hum until Jackson gave up and left. Until one night, Jackson finished up mopping at Tim Riley's bar in Marietta, Georgia, and when he got back to his room, he felt suddenly very sick. It had been happening a lot lately, day or night, at odd times. At first, he thought maybe it was just some new passing or permanent trouble that comes with age. But the sickness, at times, it felt familiar. This worried thought worried him further. So after a cigarette's worth of worrying about it, he laid on the bed and he closed his eyes and he found Jackie stumbling and slurring and screaming outside the 2-story brick building Kat lived in. "Jackie," Jackson said, now feeling the Budweiser beer boiling in his own stomach. "What the hell are you doing? Are you drunk?" "Great." Jackie threw his hands up. "Now I gotta hear your shit too." Kat came out onto the wood balcony that hung off the left side of the 2-story brick building she lived in. "I have class in the morning, Jackie, please." "I told you, I ain't leaving until you..." He took a cigarette out of his pack, dropped it, took another one out, dropped it, took another, lit it, dropped the lighter, and left it dropped. "Until you come out here and talk to me, goddammit." "Jackie," Jackson said, "please, Jackie, come back to the hotel and we can talk about this." Jackie started crying. Then he threw his fists into the pocket of his saggy Dickies jacket and he kept them there, pushing them down at the cracked sidewalk outside the 2-story brick building Kat lived in. And he paced around where the bushes are, in and out of the light from the street lamps. And he said to himself, "She's just like the rest, fucking bitch." "Jackie," Jackson said, all hot and red and ready to kick Jackie's little ass. "You watch your fucking mouth, you hear me? That's a good woman. And whatever you did isn't getting any better if you get a temper." "I didn't do shit, man," Jackie said a few times in a row, pacing around the cracked sidewalk. He kept saying it, and Jackson kept telling him to, "Come home, son, please come home." Until Jackson jumped awake from the ringing of the beat-up telephone next to his bed back at the Marietta Motel 6. His head was pounding. Every heartbeat hurt. It turned his gut, now full from Jackie's booze. He pulled himself to the edge of the bed, placed his feet on the crumbs on the carpet, and pressed the beat-up receiver to his ear. And the coiled cord swung between the beat-up receiver and the beat-up bass, causing the short and large man from the front desk's voice to sizzle a bit as it came in and out. "Call for you. Lady named Kat. Should I patch it through?" "Yes, of course, yes, please," Jackson said. There was a moment of mostly sizzles before a series of beeps, then finally a click. "Jackson, it's Kat." "Hi, Kat. Awful late. Everything okay?" "No, well," she said. "No, it isn't." Is that Jackie I hear in the background?" "Yes, he's very drunk, and Jackson, I'm scared. We had a terrible fight. A few days ago I cut things off. I'm afraid it'll upset him if I tell you this. He's always so careful with how he speaks about you. But I know he looks up to you, and you need to know. Go on, Kat. Please tell me. What has he done? Well, I don't know exactly, but you see, before I knew Jackie, before I knew you, well, I had a few hard years. Got mixed up with a guy and it's okay, Kat. I've been all over. Say it plain. Well, mostly I only snorted it, but once in a while I shot it up, and when I did, I almost died. And they put me away, but I broke the habit. I broke the habit and I went clean, totally clean, went back to school, got my house in order. But I was there long enough, and I think, she said, it seems to me that Jackie and his friends ain't just been drinking anymore. Pills? No, she said. Well, maybe it was, but it ain't anymore. He's out there in jeans and a jacket, for Christ's sake, Jackson. It's August. Just please, you have to come and get him. I don't want to call the cops, but I'm afraid of what he'll do next, and I told him already. I've come too far from it. I can't lose it all again, and I will not watch him do it to himself. I won't watch it. Come get him now, or I gotta call the cops, Jackson. I just gotta. No, Jackson said as he stood up quick. Don't do that. He sat back down. I'll handle it. Jackson put the beat-up receiver back on the beat-up bass, pinched the bridge of his nose, and hoped that Kat was wrong. Hoped that he himself was wrong every time he worried, every time he went inside Jackie only to get kicked right out because he was sleeping, always sleeping these days. Jackson called a car, and he got in, and when he got to Kat's house, she told him Jackie had already left. He checked his watch, and it was after 3 a.m., and he thought about where the hell could Jackie be, and he stood out on the cracked sidewalk as Kat sniffed and wiped up her worried tears with a balled-up wad of toilet paper and shut the door, and Jackson told her again as the door shut that everything was going to be all right because he'd find Jackie and straighten him out. Jackson started walking down the street and thinking, and soon enough, his thinking was worrying. And he took out his cell phone and he called around at the hospitals, and then the police stations, and then the sturdy old shed and the sagging hickory tree in the backyard and the one-story pink shotgun house showed up all at once inside his mind. And he knew where Jackie was, but he figured the city was too far. So he ran the 2.5 miles back to the Marietta Motel 6, and he jumped on the greasy orange bed, and he closed his eyes, and he watched it happen. He watched the rubber tube go tight around Jackie's arm. And he watched the prettiest girl in any goddamn bar in Georgia kiss the handsome young man with soft eyes that somehow contained both sex and sadness as she took the needle from him and put it in her arm. And watched as Jackie took one from him too and put it in his arm. And Jackson and Jackie collapsed into the warm, black hole inside their chest to float in a place where there is no sound and no pain. Only the gooey, gorgeous fluid of refusal. Everything was black and warm, and something kissed them both, God. And light ran from the surface of everything that God's lips touched, and it ran into Jackson and Jackie and covered them entirely. And for Jackie, it was the first time he'd ever felt anything that even kind of looked like peace. But for Jackson, it was the second time he found this sacred place. And the 40th or 50th or 60th time he tried to find it, knowing he never would again. Yet here, in Jackie, he had found what you chase but never catch. He had found the first time again. And so they floated in it, the both of them, in warm, in black, for hours or years or seconds. And after it ran away all at once, leaving only an endless map to its unreachable refuge, Jackson opened his eyes and he stood off the bed and he fell to his knees and he cried and cried. And in as small of a ball as he could make, he held himself and he said over and over again, I'm sorry, Jackie. I'm so sorry, Jackie. I gave it to you. I'm so sorry, Jackie. It's all my fault. And the next morning, Jackson woke up to the pain of the sun as it came in through the crack in the curtain. He closed his eyes, but Jackie was sleeping, so he walked with an ache in every step to the west wing, and he knocked on the green door to Jackie's room. He knocked a lot and loud, but Jackie wasn't there. So he went to the Piggly Wiggly 3 blocks from the Marietta Motel 6, and he saw Lynn there chewing gum at the lottery counter. And he asked her if she'd seen Jackie, and she laughed and said she fired him a few days ago. Kept showing up to work all skinny and squirmy and nodding off in the bathroom like every other idiot kid in this piece of shit town. So that's the moment right there. That was when Jackson knew it wasn't a nightmare what happened the night before. And he went back to his hotel room and he threw up everything he ate, and he tried water and he tried eggs, but he kept throwing up. And when he could, he stood up and walked to the mirror by his greasy orange bed and looked at himself. And right under his wet pink eyes were 2 half moons of thin, sinking black skin. And just under that was the truth, plain as day. Jackson was sick in a very specific way. He'd broken an oath he'd made the day he gave that needle to Janie. And on that day, in 2010, he lied when he told her they'd both be fine. And he didn't know he had lied. And he didn't know that there was a baby. He couldn't know. He found out in the courtroom, same as everybody else. And perhaps he can be forgiven, as he, of course, didn't know that they would die. But really, Jackson was smart. And if you asked him in a still moment, a moment unlike that one in 2010, that one in which he was moving so fast that he could hardly even breathe, well, he would tell you then that even though he could show her what he thought was his love, the transfer of sensation only went one way. Because she was better than he was. He couldn't love because he was broken, because what happened when he was young. But she could love him because she was good, and he didn't earn it, and he didn't deserve it. And when Jackson handed Janie that needle, if he slowed down and you asked him, he'd say yeah, that he could feel Janie's reasons to leave, reasons to wake up sober before anything more happened. But Jackson was too numb and drunk and caught up to speak or think, and he was too stupid to ask the necessary amount of times to be sure, to be completely and entirely sure that Janie wanted it. And he told her, even though he couldn't possibly know, and even though he was completely wrong, that they'd both be fine. And so he handed Janie that needle, and she took it. And then Jackie walked into room number 138 of the Marietta Motel 6. And Jackson turned around quick, and Jackie walked up close to him, and shaking, he said, "What did you say to her?" "Well, He grabbed Jackie and hugged him. "Oh, Jackie, are you okay? I was so worried, Jackie." Jackie pushed him back, and Jackson fell onto the edge of the greasy orange bed and sat there and looked down at himself, and then put his elbows on his knees and said, Jackie, please just listen to me." "What?" Jackie said from deep within the most hateful place inside of himself. "Did you say to Kat?" "I just went looking for you, Jackie." "She won't speak to me." "She's just worried about you, Jackie. We both are. We love you, Jackie." He stood up. "You're a fucking liar," Jackie said, pushing Jackson back down onto the bed. "You're me," he said. "We can't do that," he said. "There's no fucking love," he said. "We can't fucking do that," he said. Then he turned around and threw his arms into a lamp and sent it broken onto the floor. "Jackie, look at me," Jackson said, holding himself on the bed. "I'm sick. I've been sick for weeks. Whatever you're doing is killing me." "Good." "It's going to kill you too, Jackie. Please, just listen to me." "Even better." "Jackie, you need to stop. Just sit down and let me explain to you what happens, please," he said. "Just listen." He stood off the bed, barely, and he reached for Jackie's arm, but Jackie pulled it away. Then he thought to say all the things he'd already said, things like, "You don't understand how bad it gets, and I've already lived this, all of this, and you're going down a dark path, and this ends very badly for you, for us, and you have to overcome what happened to you when we were young. And please, Jackie, and please, Jackie, and please, Jackie." But he won't listen, Jackson said to himself. He can't listen. So instead, he just said, "Fine, Jackie, it's fine. Just kill us. Go meet the girl and the young man and put as much of it in you as you can and kill us. We deserve it." I mean, how else would this end? I can't believe it's taken this long. I've been waiting for it for 15 years. Every day I woke up in that cold, concrete, empty room up north, and I waited for somebody to bury something they sharpened against their bedpost in my gut. I waited, hoping it took good and goddamn long to bleed out so I could see every ounce of the red mess I made spilling out onto the floor. He stepped toward Jackie, because I fucking deserved to die. I deserved all 25 years they gave me, and the life they just tack on to the end of it. My sentence. Not 15 years, 25, life. That was the deal. That's what I deserved. Good behavior. He swung his arm through the air between him and Jackie and threw his words away. Yeah, I fixed it. Yeah, I found strength. Yeah, I learned. I dug to hell looking for heaven. I did my time, but I can't undo a dead girl. I can't bring her back. I can't kill the past. Jackson rubbed his chin fast and he scratched at the back of his head, and then he said, "But I can kill you. You're the murderer, not me. I don't deserve to die. You do, you little son of a bitch. You fucking killed her. You killed Janie. You ruined my life. You took everything. And the world always stays in front of you, always, and behind me, always. Why?" He stood up. No, I won't let you do it again. I won't let you kill poor Cat Donnelly, too." Jackson grabbed Jackie by the neck, and when they dropped to the floor, Jackson squeezed and squeezed until Jackie turned sort of blue and red at the same time. And Jackson stared at him in the eyes and said a few times, "You fucking deserve this. You deserve to die." And over he said, "You fucking killed her, and you 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 fucking killed her." And Jackson let go and fell back against the mirror, and he cried, and he wept, and he watched Jackie lay there completely still. And he cried, and he cried, and he wept, and Jackie didn't move at all. And he cried, and then Jackie coughed awake and pushed his hands off the floor and stood up and ran through the pink door of room number 138. "Good," he screamed with spit dripping from his lips and landing on his shirt and on the crumbs on the carpet. "Go." He yelled at the door. "Go," he cried. "Go," he cried. "Go." He started sobbing and he said no. And he reached for the parking lot and he said, "I'm sorry, Jackie, I'm sorry," he said as he wept on the crumbs on the carpet of room number 138 at the Marietta Motel 6. It's safe to say that Jackson wept there for hours. Occasionally he puked into the toilet, but mostly he wept there on the carpet repeating, "My little Plato, my little boy," and "It's all my fault, not yours, and you're a good boy." And he wept, and in time he stood up and laid on the bed and he closed his eyes and he only cried because when he tried to go in, when he tried to find Jackie, he got kicked right out. So he walked, but it was more of a crawl really, to room number 27 and found the door was open just a little. He walked in and he picked up Jackie's body, and when he did, the needle fell out onto the floor and Jackie's arms and legs and neck hung down low. He held Jackie in his arms, and he kissed him on the forehead, and he said, "I'm so sorry." He said, "Baby boy, I'm so sorry." He cried, and he held him close, and he cried, and he said, "I'm so sorry, Plato." He said, "I'm so sorry, my little baby boy." Jesus fucking Christ. Jackson steps up to the crack in the curtains and pulls them aside, letting the sun fill the room. He turns around to the coffee pot, and his loud and large footsteps thud across the crumbs on the carpet as he walks to fill his mug back up. He fills his mug back up, and he puts it to his lips and he walks to the window, and he looks outside and he sees a happy little boy running around in circles, grabbing at a dirty old dog doing the same thing. Neither knows who is chasing who. He turns the radio on and it's an old song, and he thinks that maybe life isn't so bad, even with all that's happened. Maybe there's something for everyone. Maybe there's a song or something pretty like that waiting for everyone to take them deep inside themselves so they can find what they need, find the part they play in their own pain. He thinks of time and what it does to everything. And he looks back at the past, and the past looks back at him, pale and dead and sort of blue and red all at once. And the past kind of smiles, and it shrugs at Jackson like maybe it's all okay. Maybe you just gotta let me die, old man, it says. Maybe I had to die. Then they're all smiling, Jackson, the boy, and the dog. And for a moment, the light in the room changes from a cloud passing outside, and Jackson sees himself in the reflection in the window instead of the happy little boy and the dirty old dog. And he sees the gray. Oh God, he cracks himself, the white in his hair. He sees the lines reaching away from his eyes. And then the cloud passes, and the past appears at his side and whispers to him, "Slow down, old man. Someday you're going to wish you were as young as you are right now." Jackson looks up and counts the scars on the telephone pole, and he sips from his mug, and he watches the sun shine down and thinks about the hopes in everybody's soul, and about which of us get to live them out and which of us doesn't. And he watches the happy little boy and the dirty old dog through the crack in the curtains, and Kat shows up behind him and snaps him out of it when she says, "Where's Jackie?" Jackson turns around and looks at Kat and smiles. And he walks forward and he takes her by the hand and he looks into her eyes, and a tear drops out, and his eyes are all red even though he's smiling down at her. Kat reaches her hand up and thumbs away the tear, but leaves her soft young palm on his beat up old cheeks and says, "You getting lost in the golden past again, Grandpa?" Jackson shrugs no, but another tear drops out and says yes. And then the happy little boy runs in the room and wraps his arms around Jackson's leg, and the dirty old dog runs in behind him and through the house and back into the kitchen, and then runs in circles around the three of them there in the kitchen barking. And Kat laughs and watches them, and the happy little boy says, "Grandpa, can we play airplane?" And Grandpa grumbles something about his old legs and his old arms and his old back, but he knows just as well as little Jackie does that Grandpa's going to pick him up, and little Jackie's going to fly around that entire house there, about 6 miles from that Marietta Motel 6 in Marietta, Georgia.